What's up, y'all? This is Nick with From the Ground Up DIY, and today I'm going to show you how you can build your own bath table. So I decided to make this bath table as a gift to my girlfriend. She had been telling me she wanted a bath table for a while, so instead of buying her one, I decided to make my own. And to start off this project, I started out by measuring my piece of lumber. It was about 4 feet long, and I really like it because of the smoothness and of the curved edge. Before making any cuts to the board, I made sure that I measured the width of my bathtub to make sure that the bath table doesn't overhang or that it's not too short. My plan for the bath table is for it to have holders for everything that you need. So for my bath table, I decided to do 2 candle holders, a phone holder, a wine glass holder, and then a book/tablet holder. And to start this, I'm gonna trace everything out on my piece of lumber, and then I'm gonna go back and use my router and carve everything out. I started out by tracing the shape for the wine glass holder. And for this, I just did a basic rectangle, and you can go as far back with the rectangle as you want to, but just make sure that you don't make it too short so when you put your wine glass in there that it doesn't fall out. Next, I traced out the phone holder, and for this, I didn't want this just to be a square, so I decided to use my phone case as the shape. And I decided to use this because I like how my phone case is curved, and I thought it would be a nice look, so I just decided to use this. And to start, I started by placing my phone case face down, and I used a pencil to trace around it. And then the idea came to me that if I just use this, that when I carve it out, my phone probably gonna be stuck in the hole that I make. So instead of just having that shape, I decided to make the same shape around the shape that I already traced, but I made it bigger so that when I put my phone in there, I'll be able to grip my fingers in there and be able to get my phone out with ease. For the candle holder, I went and got 2 candles that my girlfriend usually uses, and I use these to trace the circles for the candle holders. And for this, I advise you to use a compass so you can have nice clean circles. At the time, I didn't have a compass, so I just decided to use the candles and trace those. For the book/tablet holder, I'm gonna use the other half of the board that I cut earlier. And to start off, I started by measuring the halfway point between the circles that I drew for the candle holders. And once I did this, I made a mark on the half of the board on where I'm going to cut it at. And as you can see here, I'm going to use the right half for the front of the holder, and I'm going to use the left half for the back of the holder. I did these cuts based on the iPad that's going to be used for the tablet holder, and whether you're using a book or a tablet, make sure that you cut to the right dimensions so that your device or book doesn't fall out or tip over the holder. I decided to use the iPad to determine the spacing between the front and back pieces of the holder. I didn't want it leaning too far forward or too far back, so I kept adjusting until I found the right angle. And while doing this, I noticed that my front piece was a little bit too tall because it was covering part of the screen, so I decided to take it to my miter saw and cut it down a little bit so it won't cover the screen. While making this cut, I should have used a fender blade because I ended up getting a few notches in my piece of wood. So to get rid of these, I decided to take it to the sander and sand it down until it was nice and smooth. Before attaching these pieces of wood for the tablet holders onto the bath table, I decided to go ahead and pull out my router so I can get ready to trim the holes for the rest of the holders. I set my router to a 1/2 inch depth, and I use a straight edge bit to carve out all the holes. I first started with the phone holder, and when doing this, I would advise you to practice because I'm doing all of this freehand. And the day before, I traced out these shapes and carved them out just to get some practice in because it was my first time using a router. So if it's your first time too, I advise you to get some practice in before you start doing it. I will also advise having a vacuum close by because the router, it produces a lot of dust, and sometimes it gets in the way of when you're trying to carve. So make sure you have a vacuum nearby so you can get all the dust up so it won't be in your way. Once I got done with the phone holder, I noticed that I went down too far in a few spots, so I ended up having notches, and I also had a notch on the side. So to fix this, I'm gonna use some sandpaper later in the video to get it out. I also realized how much of a mess I was making inside the shed, so I decided to go outside to finish the rest. Once I got outside, I noticed that I still had trace marks from when I had traced out the shape. So to get this out, I went ahead and got my sander and just sanded it out. Next, I went ahead and started carving out the holes for the candle holders. Once I was done, I grabbed the candle that I was going to use and tried to put it into the holder to see if it was going to fit. And as you can see here, it does not. So I decided to go ahead and grab my router and just kept on carving until the candle fit. I repeated the same process for the other candle holder. For the wine glass holder, I wish I would have had a jigsaw at the time because it would have made this process way easier. But for this, I used my router to carve out half the shape because my router depth couldn't go down far enough to carve through the whole board. And then after that, I turned my bath table around and carved out the other half. And this process took about 20 to 25 minutes. But if you have a jigsaw, it probably just take you a minute or two. So I advise using a jigsaw for this part of the project. After I got done with the holders, I went ahead and grabbed the pieces for the tablet holder and attached them to the bath table. And I did this by just using my drill and just drilling a few screws in from the bottom. The bath table is almost complete. All I gotta do now is just some sanding, and then I also gotta apply my stain. For the sanding, I started by getting the notches out of the phone holder that I had showed y'all earlier. And to do this, I used a sanding block because my orbital sander couldn't fit into the phone holder. So I used my sanding block to get the notches out. So I couldn't get the notch out that I made on the side of the phone holder, so I just decided to leave it there. And it's really not that noticeable anyway, and I feel like it goes good with the look of the bath table, so I just decided to leave it. After this, I went ahead and sanded the rest of the bath table so I can get everything smooth and to get it ready for the stain. For my stain, I decided to go with Minwax Pre-Stain and then Minwax Natural Stain. I brushed Pre-Stain over the entire bath table, and then I let it sit for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then I grabbed my towel and wiped any excess that was off, and I repeated this same process for the actual stain. This was my first time using Minwax Natural Stain, and I didn't know how it was going to come out, but I like how it looks. You might can't see it in the video, but it just has a more defined look, and it just makes the wood pop out. I let the stain dry overnight, and then the next day I came out and pulled out the bath table, and this is the finished product. I loved how this bath table turned out. You got everything that you need so that you could take a nice relaxing bath. You got your phone holder, you got your candle so you can set the mood, then you also got your wine glass so you can get your sippy sip on, and it just came out to be a great project. But I hope y'all like this video. Make sure you subscribe, comment below, and also like the video, and make sure you turn on the notification bell so you can see my next video when I put it out. And also follow me at From the Ground Up DIY so you can see my day-to-day updates on projects. But until then, peace, many blessings, and I'll catch y'all later.